Hello and welcome back to This is Ibrox. We're back at Rangers Ranks for episode 2 of the series. This week I'm joined by Kyran Wallace and we're going to be doing a grading from A to F, sort of like exam style, on the squad for the season 21-22. How are you, Kyran? You alright?
I'm fine, thank you, yeah. Plenty of research done for this one, but no doubt my facts and figures will be all over the place, so nobody quote me.
Aye, that's alright, mate. Don't worry about it. We're all a wee bit dodgy with stats sometimes. I remember I said you could get something like 18 Pattersons for the price of somebody and it was miles off. It was wild. But aye, so just for anybody watching visually that's noticed something, and Kieran noticed it as well to his credit, we've not missed out the letter E. What we're doing is we're grading the squad for A to F in a sort of exam style. And I don't know anybody, to my knowledge, that's ever got an E in an exam result. You either get a D or an F.
And so, absolutely nobody's going to admit to that if they have in the comments, so we'll be all right.
Aye, if anybody's got an E and you're bold enough to share it, put it in the comments and let us know.
That's no something I'd done about Glasgow saying, Reiss.
I know. I'd probably get lifted for that. But aye, so what we're going to do is we're going to be ranking them in 5 tiers again, similar to what we've done with the captains in the first episode. But we're going to go through the squad positionally, but we're not including the likes of Namdi or Forbo or Andy Firth, who, to be quite honest, haven't had much outlook in all season. They've not played at all. We're not going to be looking at guys who have been loaned out for the entirety of the season. The first half, we will include the likes of Cedric Eaton, who missed the first half, but he contributed to the second half, so we'll get a look in. But A, as probably you'll know for exam results, is your best possible grade. So that's players that have had a superb season, couldn't ask for much more. They've shot expectations out the park, or they've just performed to the highest in the squad. B, they've had a good season, no excellent, probably just above expectations, or they've got pass marks and it was quite good. C, bang average, what you expected, neither here nor there. You're not really too emotive about them, basically. D, scraping the barrel, you're clinging on, you're kind of getting there. I've heard that a few times. I don't know about you, Kyran.
I certainly have. I don't even think I made it as far as there.
You've got a D, so it's you didn't fail it, but do you know what? You're no far off it. Much improvements needed to kick on. And then F, fail, flop, whatever. That's what we're ranking as an F. It will be horrible season. You've had a stinker, basically. If you're in F, you've had a stinker.
If you're in F, then you should be looking at a transfer list.
Ross Wilson's got a job today in F. Like, he should be looking at this and going, right, D and F. We need a word with D, and F, you're out the window.
That's it. Might find him selling F according to some fans.
He's been getting stick recently.
Yeah.
But before we start, I'd quite like to just pay our respects to Davy Wilson, former Rangers and Scotland winger, who sadly passed away earlier this week. So just to put on record our thoughts and condolences are with Davy's family and friends at this tough time. So we'll kick off the episode with the goalkeepers for the squad. Kyran, we'll start with the man himself, who was number 1 for most of the season, Alan McGregor. How would you rate Alan McGregor's season? Because it's fair to say he kept us in quite a few games, and I think his shot stopping's maybe been overlooked, but he has had a few howlers, and there's been a lot more calls this year than ever for maybe replaced.
It almost feels a wee bit sacrilege to talk about McGregor because he is a legend. He's Hall of Fame elect. He's everything that you'd want in a keeper. But this season, he's been very reminiscent of how the squad has played. Not so great in the league, but unbelievable when it comes to Europe. He's been quite costly in terms of his errors in the league. But when it comes to the Europa League, I look back at my notes here and talk about his penalty save versus Red Star and then his performance away to Red Star. Because if I'm right, the performance in the league in between, I think he had a few errors there and everybody was writing him off. And then it came to the Thursday night away to Red Star, and there was at times at that game he just kept us in it and he was unbelievable. So I'm going to sit in the fence a wee bit here and I'm going to put him in as a C. I've got him as
I see. I don't know, because I had rating at the start of the season if you had said to most Rangers fans, at the end of the season, there's going to be more shouts than ever for McGregor to be replaced. Everybody's going to be no too fussed if he retires, and most folk towards the end wanted him kind of to be a backup at most. Do you think that would have been above or below expectations for last season? Or do you think it would have been fair with just purely down to the ages coming to?
Yeah, I think it'd be fair purely coming down to the age and the position he plays as well. It's got to take its toll on his body. That being said, you can look at the flip side that there was just some games he was absolutely unbelievable. I can't remember who it was against. It was one of the games in Europe. He made that unbelievable double save where the guys took it on the volley, palmed it in the air, and then the guys put it back in, and he's cleared it with his feet from the ground out for a corner. And it's stuff like that. You don't see that from average goalkeepers. But then again, when it comes to the crossing and coming to collect and really where it counts in the league, he wasn't at it this season. So that's why I put him in C. They kind of both butt against each other.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's had 47 appearances this season, Alan McGregor. Played over 4,000 minutes to his credit, to be fair. And I think C's probably a fair shout because I think a lot of the time he's been overlooked for the blunders. It's like that famous saying, goalkeepers make a mistake and it's a goal. Anybody else makes a mistake and you can get somebody else to bail you out. But I reckon C's probably a fair shout for Alan McGregor. We'll stick Alan McGregor in at C, bang average right in the middle to kind of start us off nice and easy. Now, Robbie McCrory, what do you make about Robbie McCrory's season, Kyran? Because for me, it almost seems as if McCrory's fallen into that Liam Kelly category where he's always the bridesmaid, never the bride. He's kind of verging on that time now where you're getting ready to say, is he too good to be a backup? Could he play at SPL level, or is he just simply wasting away at Rangers?
Yeah, he's in that sort of grey patch where he's third choice in there, but he's a very good third choice. And it's kind of like, could you put him out on loan and then risk your third choice? I just don't know. I just don't know if we would have the other backup there with Andy Firth now away. Be interesting to see what happens next season. If McGregor doesn't get kept on and McCrory does go into the number 2 slot, this is presumed we don't sign another keeper, then it would be very interesting to see how that works out. Does he do what McLaughlin does this season and becomes almost like the cup goalkeeper?
Mm.
It would almost be like a natural progression for a youth that's kind of been hanging about for a while for his chance.
Aye. He did make 2 appearances this season, McCrory.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember back to the first Old Firm of the season when we had the COVID cases.
That's right, aye. And
Bobby McCrory was a goalkeeper when Gerrard had his feet up in my hotel room smoking a cigar and we still beat him. But
correct.
Never mind.
I know. I remember he saved towards the end of that game when Kyogo went in on goal and he saved it with his feet. I think that's just about all he had to do that game, but there was a moment not long after that where he put the ball out and somebody was down and they've just played on from it and you're thinking, it's sheer inexperience. But I'm being overcritical there. But I say that I'm being overcritical. I had him in it. Well, I had E down here actually, so I don't know whether he falls into D or F. I think F might be a wee bit harsh, but at the same time, a loan spell might have done him good.
Aye, I think, see, to be honest, we could almost categorise these as F's probably a flop or a failure, and D's more disappointing, and that's kind of the overriding feeling I'm getting about McCrory's season. It's probably been disappointing for me. I hope for more minutes.
Yeah.
So I think D's probably good for McCrory. He's had 2 appearances, looked alright, but he doesn't really seem to have kicked on anymore.
Nah, not at all. Yeah, I think D's pretty fair for McCrory.
Right, we'll stick Robbie McCrory and D. So we'll have that one in the comments. Do you think Robbie McCrory's had a worse season than Alan McGregor? That might be a wee argument in the comments, but let us know. Safe hands, John McLaughlin. What do you make of him?
I'm actually going to sing his praises here. With McLaughlin, I've given him a C, right? And I've given him a C due to his Scottish Cup final and semi-final heroics. Although he didn't have much to do in the Scottish Cup final, and the semi-final, I look back to two separate moments that were very reminiscent. I keep using that word. Very like what our downfall's been all season, and that's been set pieces and crosses from corners. There was two towards the end of the game against Celtic in the semi-final. Heart and hand stuff for everyone in the crowd, where we've seen this movie before. He's come out and he's punched both of them. And then in the final again, dying minutes, nothing each against Hearts, and you're thinking, this has got David Gray written all over it again. They're going to score here. They've done nothing all game. And he comes out, collects, just takes the pressure off completely. He's had 16 appearances and he's only conceded 8. Now, I know that's been in a lot early round of cup games and stuff like that, but he's come in and he's done his job, and I've got no problem at all if he was to be our number 1 next year. So quite happily, I see.
I would say that as well. I think McLaughlin's been a bit of C. I think you couldn't really expect much more being the backup goalkeeper at the moment, but every time he's come in, he's looked very reassuring. I've not got any problems with him being the number 1 next season. And to be totally honest with you, I think he's not put a foot wrong all season. He did look really reassuring coming out for corners and stuff that, again, McGregor doesn't come off his line ever. And I've always said, I think, when McGregor in goals, corners are almost like penalties against us. You just know they're going to have a great chance of scoring for it because he's not coming up for it. McLaughlin completely takes that away, and I'd say C's probably a good shout for him because he's had a fairly good season.
Yep, absolutely.
So, the man that kept us all waiting, Connor
Yep.
Goldson. We're moving into defenders. Connor Goldson, for me, he's had an excellent season. He's been by far the best defender we've had so far this season. Absolute standout. Said ages ago in the pod that he's miles ahead in terms of the rest, that he's probably your only one that can play a pass, put in a tackle and win a header comfortably and do all 3 of them.
Yeah, ticks every box, and I think you'll be in agreement with me here. He'll be our first A on the board. Am I right in saying that, Reiss?
Aye. Connor Goldson for me has got to go in A. He's actually our most used player this season. 61 appearances, 5,600 minutes played, and 4 goals for centre back.
26 clean sheets in there as well. It's unbelievable. And this is at the top level in Europe. We're talking, he has been outstanding, and it's everything he gives you. When we talk about him ticking all the boxes, it's how many games. I think there was a statistic saying he's played over something like, out the games he's been available, he's played somewhere in the region of 220 games and only missed something like 4 or 5 games. It's ridiculous. But you look at leadership, you look at when we're going out the tunnel against Leipzig, the wee soundbite that we had about we give them no respect, it's just a name, they don't know how good a team we are.
Aye.
He epitomises everything that you'd want in a captain, but a vice captain as well. So delighted we're keeping him. Saves us a lot of money, probably changes the transfer strategy a wee bit. Yeah, absolutely delighted he'll be here for another 4 years, and quite rightly so, he's in at A.
Aye, I think it honestly must have been into double figures with voice notes when Golden signed that new deal. Totally wasn't expecting it. Was almost grieving the fact that we were going to need to spend millions on a centre back. The defence would have dropped a massive level, and I'm delighted we've got 4 more years of him. I'm not sure that he'll stay the 4 year, but it's better to have no need than needing no have. But
That's true.
Golden for me, the most ever present we've had this season. The next one, I think, is quite controversial because he seems to kind of divide opinion at the minute. And for a while, Leon Balogun was a very, very credible option at the back for me. I think he had that recovery pace that he was probably matching Hollander. You would rotate them depending on opposition and that. But for February, I think Balogun's been a man down. I don't know what it is. I just think towards the end of the season, he's been rotten. I don't know if you feel the same, but it's just he's been quite disappointing for me towards the end of the season, and I was actually quite relieved, especially when Goldson had signed, that we didn't choose to extend his contract. But with yourself,
yeah, you're saying about Goldson's contract there. I think that's a lot to do with why Balogun hasn't been kept on. I think they had it in the back of their minds that they would probably keep Balogun on and sign a Goldson replacement, but I think that's had a part to play in it. The second half of the season, maybe not as good as his first half of the season, we think back to the game Hollander scored to beat them 1-0 at Ibrox, and Balogun actually played in at right back, completely nullified Celtic's best player. But and the flip side of it is he's been injury plagued. He's been up and down the whole season. I don't think he's went any more than 3 or 4 games consistently without getting like fatigue injuries and stuff like that. And then again comes back in the second half of the season. His form's up and down. The header against Red Star's probably the highlight of the run-in for Balogun. I've got him sitting in here at C. Am I maybe being a bit generous?
See, I would say C's probably all right, because towards the start of the season, now, you'll remember it as well because you've just reminded me of it. When they team sheets came out for the first Old Firm game and Balogun was at right back, I remember just thinking, oh, Jesus, it would be as well been a man done. But he was by far the best player on the park. He pocketed them. And
at that point, we still had Patterson. So we were missing Tav, we were missing Patterson. Balogun slotted in and he was outstanding that day. Some of his last-ditch tackles were brilliant.
Aye, he's definitely had some credible performances, and I reckon this will probably be a theme with a few players in the list. The first half of the season, I would have edged on B, but the second half of the season, definitely D, because any time he was coming on, he just looked rash. He looked kind of unsettling the back four and stuff, and he had the rash red card at Motherwell. There was a bit of debate whether or not it was a red card, but regardless, it was a daft tackle to make.
Yeah, a red for me, but it's funny you say that about the theme of this. When I was looking over this, and I was trying to get my head around looking at over a full piece of the season, and it's funny how the season flipped. The first half of the season, I felt like we were flying in the league and really struggling in Europe. Some horrible performances. You look at Alice Kerr, Malmo, away to Sparta Prague, away to Brøndby, some really horrible performances in Europe. And then after the new year, we were horrible in the league and unbelievable in Europe. I don't know if that comes down to Gio taking over for Gerrard, but it's very like some of the players' performances as well.
Aye, and funnily enough, I've got a Lyon top on the row, and I remember going to the home game against Lyon and we were comfortably beat that game. We were nowhere near in it, but it was quite indicative of the season flipping. But I think Balogun's probably another one you could put in C, because he had a good start of the season and a horrible end. And to be fair, it might just be that age has caught up with him. It might be that he's not got that recovery pace that he did have before, and that he's now, maybe his mental fragilities are getting kind of exposed more. So I reckon C's probably a good shout. What do you think?
Yep, C for me.
C. Next one, Youth Academy prospect, another Lyon. We've got the Kings of Lyon here. Lyon King. What do you make of his season, Kyran? Because I think it's safe to say this has probably been his biggest breakthrough season so far, and that the future's looking quite bright for Lyon King.
Yeah, absolutely. The best is yet to come from him. And I seen a lot of folks saying with the Balogun release that, right, okay, the door's now open for the next Lyon to come through, and it would be King. So, young guy, highly tipped. We've done well to hold on to him, because I know the clubs like Man City were sniffing about him if reports were right. It's a hard one. It's a hard one where to put him in here, because, being honest, I don't watch too much of the B team, so I don't see too much of him. But at the same time, I'm swithering between C or D here. I can't say I'm disappointed. He's young, so he maybe slots in at C.
So, see, I was thinking B. Because at the start of the season, if you'd have said to Lyon King, you'll get a few first team appearances, you'll be pushing on through, and you'll be basically nailed on for a squad place the following season, skip the loan phase and stuff like that. You'll not be playing B team football. I think he would have taken that in a heartbeat. I think he'd have bit your hand off.
I can see where you're coming from. Within context, a B on his own sort of personal achievement. His achievements probably at the start of his goals at the start of the season were probably get experience under my belt, competitive football with the B team, and then push on to try and gain some appearances in the first team. So yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming there. That he's done what he set out to do.
Aye, I think, see, even if we look at where we've got people ranked now, Leon King for me is undoubtedly had a better season than Leon Balogun. And Alan McGregor and John McLaughlin. I think he's exceeded expectations at a bare minimum.
Within context.
Aye. We'll give Leon King a B-, I think.
Aye, that's fair. That's fair. I think if we're sitting here this time next year and he's not kicked on and he's not well into double figures for appearances, then it's probably not been what we expected from him for next year. That's the expectation, that he goes in there and it's like Danny Wilson when he broke through at Rangers, young guy at 18 and sort of cemented his place next to Davy Weir, which was quite unexpected at the time. So I think high expectations for King next year.
Aye. I'll go on record now and say if Leon King hasn't got more first team appearances than Philip Hollander next season, he's had a disappointing season.
I'd agree.
Especially because, well, we're coming on to Phil Hollander now.
Yeah.
A guy who he scored the winning goal in an Old Firm game this season, and I was actually tempted to use that as his picture for this tier list, but other than that, he's had a bit of a shocker. The guy seems to have absolutely no luck with injuries, and as much as I like him and rate him as a player, he's not reliable.
Yeah, absolutely love the guy. Huge part of 55. It will never ever be forgotten. The goal this year, one of the highlights of the first half of the season. But injuries, man, it's just, we're at the stage now where it's stick or twist with Hollander. For me, he gets an F. Completely poor season from him, and I feel sorry for the guy. It's no down to performance, it's fitness and being a bit unlucky, but in football's all about opportunities and a wee bit of luck, and he's just not had it this year, and yeah, I've been quite disappointed.
Aye. For me, I totally agree. I think Hollander, he seems to be made out of Weetabix. Anytime he gets a game, he's just one bit of contact and he's done. He's back up to Ross Hall for a scan and injuries getting announced, and he's not kicked a ball in ages.
And that's the things, if you remember back to the celebrations at the Scottish Cup, he still had a boot on. Like, so he can't be anywhere near a return.
Nah, and I have spent anything got Phil Hollander, and viewers, listeners can go and do this now. Look up Phil Hollander, click news, and I guarantee the first 10 stories are all injuries. All injury related. It will be somebody's returning, he's fighting for fitness, somebody's saying he's needing fitness, whatever. But he's always injured. And for me, for somebody that we paid $3.5 million for, he's a Swedish international. He played at the last 16 of the Euros, if I remember correctly, last year. He's just had an absolute howler.
Yeah, it's not worked out. Worked out from this season.
So as it stands, we've now got one player at least in every category, our grades. So we've got Goldson at A, we've got Leon King at B, although we've given him a B-. We've got McGregor, McLaughlin and Balogun at C, we've got McCrory at D, and we've got Hollander in F.
And I think Hollander's about to have some company.
Aye. Hollander's about to get joined by Bart's cousin. We've got Jack Simpson next. So, what was the point? What was the point in this signing?
I know. I remember when we signed him, and it kind of came out from nowhere. We'd picked this guy up for Bournemouth. So you're thinking automatically, English, decent age, decent fee. It's worth the gamble, and then you do the old obligatory looking through Twitter to see the comments from Bournemouth fans, and just reading Bournemouth fans basically saying he's sixth choice here and he's not had a sniff. And yeah, it's kind of starting to ring true. It's not worked out for him at all. I think his time's up, and he'll be commanding a wage at Rangers. He'll be on a decent wage here. So right. I think if we got him off the books, then it would take a wee bit of flack away to what a poor signing it's been.
I think for where we want to get to this season, I don't think there's any kind of room for sentimentality going into this season. The likes of Jack Simpson or Forbo, I'm glad we've got rid of it, and guys like that. It might not be their fault, and the likes of Forbo who's had heart issues, but you're paying him at the end of the day. It's not as if he's just gone to the doctor and kind of using the physios and that. You're paying him probably a decent wage. Cut ties for me. I think Jack Simpson, F. He's not looked anywhere near reassuring. He's, as far as I'm aware, not played much B team football, and the amount of links, or rumours linking him with a move away to kind of championship teams and stuff, it really wouldn't surprise me if he was one of the first names at the door this window.
Yeah, totally. I agree with that.
Jack Simpson, F. So, the next one, the big man, another guy that's getting linked with moves away, but this time it's in a totally opposite direction. The absolute unit that is Big Shirley, Calvin Bassey. For me, he's automatic A. I don't know about you, Kyran.
I'm going to be a wee bit controversial here and say B.
B?
There was times in the first half of the season where, let me see my notes here, it didn't quite kick on at the start of the season. Maybe I'm being overcritical there, but it wasn't really until Van Bronckhorst came in that he slotted in at centre-back and then he grew for there. I can remember the game away to Hearts. Was it just before Christmas? Yeah. Away to Hearts just before Christmas. And he was outstanding at centre-back. And from there he kicked on. He then had a poor game at Parkhead when we get beat 3-1. But I think he went back into left-back, if I'm right, after that. Balogun sort of came back in. And then he started to really get going. And when we compare him to Barisic on that left-hand side, it used to be the other way about, where Barisic gave us so much more, but Bassey a constant threat. You've got to look at his highlights for the season. That run in, what was it, the second half extra time against Celtic at Hampden.
Aye.
Unbelievable. An absolute beast fitness-wise. Our most sellable asset at the moment. And yeah, it's just been unbelievable. I've also got down here that, if you remember back as well, the game against Dortmund, that was almost a coming of age performance for him. He was bullish down that left hand side against a very good right back at Dortmund.
Aye.
The cross into the box for Tav's goal at the back post. So A or B for me. Absolutely love the big man. I'll be gutted if he goes, but I can see why if he does.
Aye, I think it purely down to that kind of coming of age and the way that he's been linked with a £25 million move. Like, at the start of the season, nobody would ever have thought that. He was quite firmly a backup. He's maybe had a wee sliding doors moment where Bournemouth had a wee slip back and he's had a massive jump forward. But for me, he's just a physical specimen. He's just absolutely massive. I remember saying in another podcast, he's two short pockets are in different postcodes. He's that big man. But I think the £25 million move, aye, he's definitely an A or a B. But I do take your point that there's maybe still some wee gaps in his game, and at the start of the season he maybe wasn't as good. So, what do you think? Do you think B?
I'm going to go B. I've not got many in A. I think that's a very exclusive club.
Right.
B's quite controversial, I think. B plus. How about a B plus?
Aye, we'll go B plus. You know what? We'll stick Calvin right at the front of B, and we'll put Leon right next to him, because we've got Leon at a B minus and Calvin at a B plus, so we'll put Calvin right at the front.
Yep. I think we're going to get slaughtered for that, but hey, that's what we're here for, isn't it? It's all good luck.
Aye. Let us know if you think Calvin Bassey's at A. Get us told. If you would happily sell him and take the 25 million, let us know. As we say, this is what it's all about. It's all about opinions.
Yep.
So, Borna Barisic, what do you think? Because for me, he only ever really seems to turn up at St Mirren.
Mate. I remember seeing a quote after that game away to St Mirren the second half of the season saying, "Who defrosted Borna Barisic?" Almost what it was like. He goes to Paisley and they sort of turn up the heat and there's Barisic, but there's never been a more appropriate song for a player from the fans than He Comes and Goes. You just don't know what you're getting with him. In terms of service and delivery, he's got a wand of a left foot. In terms of heart and desire, it's very questionable at times. And reason why I've got him in at D here, he looked as, if you remember back as well, I know we've touched a couple of times on that win against Celtic at Ibrox. Not remember after the game where he was down on his knees and he was in tears. It looked like he was off. and then all of a sudden the transfer window passed and he stayed. It was almost as if he was disappointed not to get his move.
See, personally, I don't remember I'm being down in tears because I think I was probably off celebrating at that point. But he seems to have a bit of a howler now. I've noticed it for a wee while, but every time I watch him now, I say it, and listeners, viewers, I encourage every single person listening to this to take this on board. And now that I've said it, you'll notice it. Borna Barisic doesn't defend. He doesn't press. He doesn't sit off. He'll not show you a certain way. Borna Barisic, his defending tactic is simply stand and hope the ball hits you. He's no stopping the cross coming in, and he's no tracking somebody in the box. He's standing about 5 yards off a winger and hoping the ball hits him. I can honestly see it in my head every time I watch him. I see it, and his delivery is still incredible. We've not really seen it as much this season. I don't know whether it's because he's not been taking set pieces as regularly. I think Tav's cannot be fully trusted with them now.
Yeah,
I think for me, Borna is definitely a D. He's had a disappointing season, and to label him maybe in the same category as John McLaughlin, who for me has not really put a foot wrong, would probably be harsh. So I reckon D.
It's McCrory we've got on it, D.
No, but I mean, if we were to put him at C, then
I get you.
To be in with Balogun and McGregor, they've been disappointing at times and all, but McLaughlin's probably been an upper class, I see. I think he's been almost better than average, but Barisic by far below expectations.
I think all in all, though, Barisic has been an excellent signing when you consider how much we paid for him, the season he had last year. Mm-hmm. It's rightfully so that he's in it disappointing. We're disappointing because of expectations, because how good we know he can be, but he's just not done it this year.
Aye, definitely. See, when you think about the fact that we signed Barisic at the same time we signed Eros Grezda, and we signed them both for Osijek in the same window, it's quite incredible to think how different a calibre of player the two of them are. And
Grezda was a spot to keep him company.
Aye, it was almost as if they come as a package, so you've got to buy the two of them if you want one. Gerard thought, you know what, we'll need to do it to get Barisic. But aye, for me, disappointing by his own standards. Overall, as a player, great servant. He's done really well. But just to add to his credit, I absolutely love how he winds up away fans.
Oh.
Can't remember who it was towards the end of the season, but he came off, and obviously with the new rules, you don't need to go off in the middle of the pitch. You can come off at the far side and walk round. Yeah. And he was getting by somebody's fans and giving them pelters. I think it was Dundee United actually.
I remember that.
Aye, disappointing. Winding up Dundee United fans. D's quite apt for Borna Barisic, I think.
Yep.
Next one, the main man himself.
Yes.
More penalties than a traffic warden. So we've got James Tavernier, the captain. I think that's a tap in for me. I think it's got to be A.
There's not even any point in saying it, is it? He's in the A club all day, by far the best player, consistently over the course of the season. I know we've spoke about players not being so consistent over the course of the full season. Tav's just been absolutely brilliant.
Aye.
When I look here, top goal scorer in Europa League, 58 appearances, 18 goals and 16 assists, and our player of the year by a complete and utter mile. I know there's debate about icon, legend, whatnot, but
episode one.
Correct, yes, I tuned in. He's legend for me. Where we were when he signed to where we are now is him with captain. It tells its own story. His captain's in Europa League final, Mr. Consistent. His goals from right back. He's been phenomenal. I absolutely love having him at the club. I'd love to have his brother here next year as well, if I'm honest.
I heard somebody was maybe trying to do a bit of scouting on Marcus at a game. Where was it? He wasn't getting it.
No idea who you're talking about.
Aye, we'll leave that one for another day. Aye, James Tavernier, absolute tap-in. he's joining Connor Goldson in A.
Yeah.
The next one, a club record sale, Nathan Patterson. How did you rate his season? Now, obviously, he left in January, so we'll not take into consideration after January because he wasn't here. But up until January, he didn't really have that many appearances. I would argue that he probably could and should have had more chances to play. But again, he's fighting for the hardest spot in the team to get. It's quite a niche position, and he was always a good option when he came in.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with you. He's fighting for the hardest position in the team. Tavernier's injury record speaks for itself, that he is Mr. Consistent, rarely misses a game. Patterson, I think I've got down here, only made 4 starts this season, so he had no real bearing on the season, even if we take into account what he's done since he's went down to Everton, which is next to nothing. I think he'll be disappointed in his own season. He'll be happy he got his move, and I'm happy what we got for him, but he's been no real loss.
Less than 600 minutes for Rangers this season. I'd say it's probably harsh to say that he's definitely not been a failure, but I don't think he's been B. He's somewhere between D and C for me. I think he's probably more C, just because I don't think you can fault him, but
I'm going to say D because he's just not really done it. We expected so much for him to kick on. I think, am I right in saying there was a few times where Gio even tried to shoehorn him into that sort of, like, right back in behind Taver? Was it the other way about, where they were trying to get them both to play on the same side, where he experimented with a few things and it really didn't work? And for somebody with generational talent for Scotland, and we expected him to be the next big thing this year, considering how well he done last year, he's been disappointing for me. Disappointed to see him go, but yeah, he's disappointing.
We'll put Patterson in D for disappointing for Kieran's point of view, and I'll put him in D for done the bail to Everton. So, but honestly, I wish him all the best because he's up against Seamus Coleman and John Joe Kenny for that right back position. And to be totally honest, I wanted Everton to get relegated just because they were still not playing him in front of the two. I think that was shocking, but do you know what? It is what it is. That's their problem. Let them deal with it.
I share your thoughts, mate.
Next one for me. Now, this is a controversial opinion.
Okay.
For me, James Sands is a man down. I genuinely don't see what he does. The American boy, we brought him in January for New York City. I believe it's an 18-month loan deal with the option to buy.
Yep, correct.
If reports are to be believed, the option to buy is absolutely ridiculous, and there's obviously a high expectation for where the boy can reach if his fee is around $4.5 million, because at the minute I wouldn't pay you $4.5 grand for him. At the minute, I just don't see what he does. For me, he's a crab. He's side to side, 5-yard passes, safest player you'll ever see. I just think, let's see if you stuck me in the park, I could have probably done it. I could have done
it. I'm scared to be overcritical of this one because he's a case of the unknown, but what I've wrote down here is that he always played when you never expected. Like, we had John Lundstram on the bench away to Aberdeen, and Sands comes in midweek on loan, thrown in away from the start at Aberdeen, and you're like, what in God's name is going on here? Quite a disappointing debut, although, once again, maybe overcritical a wee bit here with Sands, because he's got to bed in, like mostly every signing they've got to bed in. And when I say he played at the weirdest times, even you look to his most recent as a Europa League final, we're all sitting thinking Balogun's coming on, Basile slotting at left back when Barisic went off, and Sands come on right out of the blue, hadn't been playing whatsoever, and he comes in Europa League final, and he didn't really do too much right, really didn't do too much wrong. It's a hard one to put your finger on, but I've got him here. I don't know where to put him. I'm in between D and F.
I'll be totally honest with you. For me, it's an F. I think it's. Honestly, I don't know how you can turn to the bench and pick him ahead of majority of the squad. I just think it's 5-yard passes side to side. He'll keep the ball, but what professional football player can he do it?
Exactly. But do you know what I want from Sands next year, right? Remember, like boys' club football, probably a long time ago for me, maybe about a year or two ago for you, Reiss, mate. I want to see James Sands with the most improved player award next year.
Oh, that's a sympathy vote if I've ever heard it, innit? Aye. Do you know what? Honestly, if he turns out to be even something of a decent player next season, then I don't think it'll be hard for him to get most improved, because where he's starting off at now for me is a car crash of a signing.
It reminds me a wee bit like who's the American like the American student that Elijah Wood plays in Green Street.
Oh,
you know that way he's a wee bit soft
aye.
and he needs to get round about the right guys to harden him up a wee bit.
Aye, Matt.
A bit
Matt.
of aggression.
Aye. Do you know, see when he came in with the American stereotype, I always want him to be like one of the jocks you see in the American films. Like one of the guys that's just a pure pain. Like nobody likes him. He's pure annoying, but getting the job done. Like one of the guys you want on your team, but if he's no, you absolutely can't stand him.
Aye.
But he's just no. He just seems to be a bit of a wet wipe for me.
A bit of vanilla, isn't he? He's just...
Aye. James Sands, F. You're joining Phil Hollander and Jack Simpson in F.
I hope we're wrong next year, though. I hope someone looks back at this and he's had a good season, so fingers crossed.
Aye. Do you know what, James Sands, if you're watching and listening, because I know you are, then next season, see when you win most improved, pal, come back and let me know. Happily eat my words when we win 56 and you get player of the year.
The wee trophy with the boot on the ball, slip made of plastic.
Aye. I'll go to the shop and buy him one. Scott Arfield next. For me, I think this has probably been his aging out season. There was a lot of controversy about him and Davis, about the two of them getting a contract extension. For me, Arfield's quite good because you can see that he's actually a leader on the park. He'll stand and point, he'll talk others through the game, and he'll still put the work in, although he's maybe not as good as he once was. Would you think?
Yeah, 110% every game from Arfield. I was one that was actually quite happy that he got his contract at the time, thinking that Davis was off and McLaughlin was, McGregor was off and Balogun was off. You're then looking at three experienced players there who are all leaders in that dressing room. The next guy you looked is Scott Arfield outside of Tavan Goldson. So I was delighted that he kept on, got his extension. Got to look at his highlight of the season, that goal against Celtic at Hampden. Came off the bench that day. Him and Davis completely turned the game on its head. And a sublime finish, coolest of heads in a high pressure environment, and he stepped up where it counted. So for me, it goes in at C, but I'm thinking C plus.
C plus. See, I was verging on D. I think that.
Really?
I would probably agree. To be totally honest with you, I think C as well. Purely because I rate what Arfield does off the ball more so than what I do when he does, or what he does on the ball. Well, I think he's a total leader off the ball. I think he's one of the guys as well in training that will lead by example, set standards. But see, purely for the celebrations in Europe with Ryan Jack and John Lundstram jumping about to I'm feeling it and that, aye, he's getting put in C for me.
Right in there, man.
Stephen Davis, man, the guy, he's like a fine wine. He gets good, well, he's good wage. I'm not going to say he's getting better wage because I don't think he is in truth. I think for me, it was all season, I thought it was time to call it. I kept thinking it's time to go. Do you know, I was certain him and McGregor would call it at the end of the season, but he comes on towards the end of the season and he's still got that ability just to dictate games. When you think he's 37, he's done, he's not getting a game anymore, he's not really starting, he's not played in weeks. He comes on and just strolls it.
Yeah. I think with Davis, it's been an up and down season. When you look at the first half of the season, if I'm right, he was out for a while with COVID. And then as he was in the verge of coming back, he ended up with a thigh injury. Then the manager changes. Gio completely shunned him for a while. And then all of a sudden, I can't remember which performance it was. I dare say it was St Mirren away. He was in for that and he started to sort of dictate things again. And I think Van Bronckhorst got a feel for him. And then like Arfield, the highlight for him was that game at Hampden. He completely turned the game on its head. Excuse me. Right after I mentioned COVID, that's not COVID, by the way. For anybody watching it knows me. My work at that. Now the game at Hampden, I think that was really where Van Bronckhorst got a proper look, where he could see what Davis could do. Lundstram and Jack that day were dead on their feet. He came on, he was outstanding, and even I give credit, the Europa League final, he came on, done what Davis does, controls the game, reads the game well, breaks up play. I think he done well in the Europa League final. Very unlucky not to score with the shot that deflected twice. For me, he goes in with Scotty Arfield at C, just because slightly disappointing at the start of the season, as opposed to the end of the season.
See, to be totally honest with you, I would say D. I think he's been slightly underwhelming for how good he is. Just his lack of minutes is probably what sways it for me. But it just seems to be that every time you write him off, because admittedly I've written him off most of the season, and then he just comes back in and strolls it, and he's just an absolute maestro. He totally dictates the game. But for me, has he been better than the players we've got in D? I would say he's been better than Borna, and he's had a better season than McCrory and Patterson. So yeah, I'd agree he's got to get and see.
Yeah, love Davis.
That C's kind of filling up. I think we maybe need to put a wee cap on a tier sometime soon.
I know.
See about that towards the end. We'll have a wee look at it at the end.
Yeah.
Glenn Kamara. Now, for me, we have debates about this in the chat all the time.
Yeah.
For me, Glenn Kamara is. I don't see what the fuss is. I really don't. I think for me, he's quite lackadaisical on the ball. I think his work rate defensively is quite questionable. Don't get me wrong. I think there was times where at Parkhead he was probably the only one pressing in the game. We got absolutely hammered and we were sitting right off him. He was the only one who seemed to have that awareness that no, this isn't right. We need to press. But
there was part of me felt sorry about in there. There was part of me felt sorry for him in that game because Van Bronckhorst had came in. I don't even know if it were 10 games. He was 10 games in the door at that point, and he just wasn't sure what to do with Kamara. I still don't think he's sure what to do with Kamara. Mm-hmm. And he played him as just a single sitting midfielder, and it just did not work at all. When we look, I've actually got him in at C, but the more I talk about it, it's been disappointing.
I think, especially for an international player, but with Kamara, it just seems that he's not an 8. He's not going to be box to box. I don't think he's got the work rate to be an 8. He's certainly not going to put in 7 tackles a game. For me, I don't think he's a 6. But I think what we're starting to see now, and especially under Gio, I think Gio started to recognise that his work rate backwards maybe isn't as good as... He's almost like when you're a wee boy when you're playing football younger. Like, when the ball's going forward, you're sprinting because you want to score a goal. But when you lose the ball, it's about, you're kind of walking back. You want the glory, but you don't really want to do the graft. It's a bit like that. So I think that's maybe why we're now seeing Kamara sometimes deployed as a 10. Yeah. He seems to be that furthest forward of the 3 centre mids sometimes, and I think that's what Gio's picked up on. But for an international player who at one point was being linked with £10 million moves away, for me, it really wouldn't be a loss to me if we moved him on this window. See if you can get £8 million for Glenn Kamara, I'd drive him tomorrow.
It was one of the ones where if you asked me, we need to sell one of Aribo, Kent or Kamara, it would be Kamara. That being said, I love him at Rangers. I think value for money is up there with one of our greatest signings. I think when we're selecting between C and D here, he very much falls into the Barisic category where he's a victim of his own success and form of last season. But once again, highlighting moment. If it wasn't for John Lundstram away to Borussia Dortmund, I think Kamara would have possibly won goal of the season for that finish against Leipzig.
Aye. That Leipzig goal was incredible, man. He just stroked it in. that's what I mean. Like, technically, he's quite a good player. Technically, I don't think you can doubt his ability. He came through Arsenal's academy. He's got a decent enough pedigree about him, but I don't know. There's just something missing for me, and I really don't think we would be losing a great deal for the amount we could bring in and replace him with. For the figures being touted, aye, D for drive you to the airport if you get a decent bid. Glenn Kamara joins Robbie McCrory, Borna Barisic and Nathan Patterson and D for this season. Next one, he's the best on earth. I don't even think we need to say anything else about John Lundstram. He's the best on earth.
I'm going to be a wee bit controversial here, Reiss.
Right, what are you saying?
He's not in the A club for me, man.
Oh, here we go. Right, expand on that one, because
Okay,
I had him nailed in.
I will. Right, we're looking at players over the course of the season, right? Lundstram into Gerrard and Beale's system, he didn't really hit the ground running. Took him a while to sort of find his feet. And then we look at Alice Kerr, if I'm saying that right. He gets 2 yellow cards, one after the other, before half time, and we're down to 10 men. After that, he's kind of in and out the team. Gio comes in. He disappeared. We didn't see him until late February. And we're talking after that horrible night at Parkhead where we get beat 3-0. Gio didn't fancy him. He only really came back into the team end of February, start of March, and let's be honest, he really kicked on from there. He's unbelievable, an absolute standout. I really hope we sign another centre back to get him into centre mid with Jack. When I look at the game where he really cemented his place was when him and Jack were centre mid against Hearts at Ibrox and we took 5 off them. And from there, man, he kicked on, really did kick on. But up until that point, it's easy to forget because his performances in Europe and in the Cups as well that he didn't have a great, you could even say first 2/3 of the season.
I totally agree with that. At the start of the season, I think we all just kind of discarded him as it's a signing that's not really worked. But we got him in a free, so it doesn't really matter. There wasn't a lot of big fanfare about it. But yeah. I totally agree that he probably wasn't in most people's starting 11s for the first half of the season.
Yeah. I know he gives strong points there, but I've absolutely no problem if he's in A. I absolutely love the guy.
To be totally honest, he's gone in A. I love him. He's the best on earth, man. See, he's that proper council estate footballer, isn't he? You can just tell he's grown up in Liverpool. He knows when to snap somebody. See that semi-final performance where he done an absolute hatchet job on Hatate?
Yeah.
He had 8 fouls on Hatate alone. How he never get booked is an absolute mystery. But even then, he knows how to put his authority on the game. He's had Rangers scarves on after results. He's jumping about doing the bouncy, singing all sorts.
He's just so relatable. Like you said there, he's a bit of a scheme football player where and you look at his career as well, where it didn't really work out for him as a youth at Everton, and he went right to the bottom and worked his way back up, and he's now it's almost a dream now for him. He's played in a European Cup final in his first season. Just unbelievable. He's everything we love in a player, and it's 100%. It's aggression in the tackle. It's wearing your heart on the sleeve and just absolutely loving the badge on that top that you play for.
See, for me, he's almost like, and I hate to even mention the name on a Rangers podcast, let alone compare somebody I love to him. He's almost like a Rangers version of...
Don't say it, Reiss, man.
Somebody who was across the city and done the bail after we broke their hearts, right? We'll leave it at that. The viewers and listeners can guess who we're talking about. He's got that tenacity, the leadership about him. The highlight of the season for me was John Lundstram, and for me this tops the 8 tackles on Hatate, the goal against Dortmund, the absolutely countless 40-yard diags he plays. The guy can do everything. He's box to box, but for me the highlight of the season is the Old Firm game when a Celtic player's doing injured and you've got Bassey getting out to check if he's alright. Lundstram shouting him, "Ho, back!" leave him, as in let him lie there and hurt, get back into position because they could counter here. That for me was a highlight. It's still, I would go back and watch that video at least 10 times a day if I could find it and find the time to do it.
Yeah, he's been brilliant.
So moving on to his midfield partner, Ryan Jack. Now, it's a wise man once said a footballer's greatest ability is his availability. Now, for me, Ryan Jack, phenomenal footballer. I had the pleasure of meeting him not long ago. Obviously, I asked for a photo because he's one of the guys you just look up to. He's a phenomenal player. And he had quite recently at the time scored in the Scottish Cup final. So for me, when all the lasses in my work are going, who is he? I'm like, are you kidding me? He scored in the Scottish Cup final last week, man. Come on. Again, he's just not really reliable. What do you think?
Oh, mate, I don't know if you're going to agree with me here, but I've got him in at B.
B?
The reason I've got him in at B, right? 22 appearances, right? That, when I spoke about the Hearts game, with Lundstram kicked on, Jack was also the same. Jack coming back in after a disappointing result to that Hearts game. Him and Lundstram formed a partnership in the middle of the park that I hope we see next season again. I hope that's the mainstay, the centre of our midfield. But we're a different team when Ryan Jack's not there, and we're a far, far better team when he's in it. Some of his performances when he's been fit have been brilliant, but we talk about being fit, and like you say, 22 appearances for a guy of his ability. It's a shame to see. We would love to see a full solid season at Jack. I doubt we'd get it because he's not getting younger. So, don't know. He goes in at B. He goes in at B for me. But I really like the guy.
Aye. I think, for me, I think Ryan Jack's a B simply because over 20 appearances, I don't think you can say that he's missed the majority of the season. Saying that, we've had a few players play 60 odd games this season, but 22 appearances for me it's reasonable. It's no shocking. And every time he's played, I don't remember Ryan Jack having a bad game. Honestly, I don't.
Nah, neither I. I think Gio managed him well as well when he's been toiling, and you can tell he's pulled him at times with the crowd. Have been like, you know what happens when Ryan Jack gets subbed and the 60-minute mark, the 65-minute mark. Unfortunately, that's just something you've got to work with Jack. But here's hoping full pre-season under his belt he can kick on. I think it's about time he called it a day with Scotland. Unfortunately, as much as I do like the national team, that when you're getting these injuries that keep reoccurring, I think it's about time he called it a day there and focused solely on Rangers.
Aye. For me, I think especially with Scotland, and he's got such a fragile injury record, and playing for a country, and obviously growing up in Aberdeen, it's probably different, to be totally honest, right? It's not easy for me to kid on. I get the mindset, because I think they're probably a fair bit more patriotic up there and a bit more accepting of it.
Yeah.
But when you're playing for a team and being booed by your own fans, in my opinion, he should do a Barry Ferguson to that cameraman and retire for international football. For me, I would chuck it if I was him especially, but it wouldn't surprise me, and to be totally honest, I'd probably take a fair bit of pleasure if he did chuck it with Scotland, because Steve Clarke would run him into the ground if he thought it would benefit Celtic. We'll stick Ryan Jack in B with Calvin Bassey and Leon King. I think Jack's probably not had as outstanding a season as Bassey, but he's certainly had a better season than Leon King.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next one, controversial, and it's actually quite painful to even bring up. Aaron Ramsey. Now, on deadline day, the signing of Aaron Ramsey sent Glasgow into meltdown. I think there's people claiming it was the biggest signing since Gaza. I'm still trying to punt my Wales flag if anybody's fancied taking one to Qatar this year, then hit me up and I will send you a Wales flag if you want to support them. What do you make of the signing, Kyran? Is it a hit or a miss, and where do you grade them?
It's a D for flatter to deceive, mate. So disappointing. I think we expected so much more. well, we did expect so much more in terms of it's Aaron Ramsey. When we signed him, we were kind of like, what is going on? I remember waking up that morning and seeing the tweets and everybody's kind of like, aye, no chance, whatever. And then it started to become a wee bit more real as the day got on. We expected so much more. We expected to be the club that really revitalised his career, and it didn't happen whatsoever. A 60 minutes here, it took us a long time to get a 90 minutes out of him. Unbelievable against Annan. That's went a long way that we went to win the Scottish Cup. So when we look back there, it was totally worth it. It brought him in to beat Annan. But nah, completely disappointed. Still love the guy. Great at Rangers. Great for our club to have a player of that calibre, even if it was for a short 6 months. The less said about the penalty in Seville, the better. So,
I think for me, I would put it straight into F, just because of how disappointed I was for it. I think it's a total flop. But I don't know. See, with the Scottish Cup final celebrations, I really did feel for the guy. You could tell he was very reserved and sheepish. He didn't really want to be centre of attention. He didn't want to lift the trophy and that. And it wasn't long after Seville. But for me, it was a total flop of a signing. I think I probably more than most jumped on that hype bandwagon of we were kind of flying in the league at the time. We were still top by a few points, if I remember correctly.
That's right.
Coming up with daft chants for him in my head and all the time, and evidently bought a Wales flag. Honestly, for me, it was an F. I think total flop.
You were a dragon away from moving in with him. Aye, it's F. It is F. I was disappointed, but it's not worked out at all. Unfortunate for the guy, but nah, it hasn't worked out.
So Aaron Ramsey's joining Philip Hollander, Jack Simpson, and James Sands an F. Next one, breakthrough season, other end of the scale altogether in terms of age. Maybe potential to reach the same kind of calibre. Alex Lowry, he's been labelled the Masonic Modric on Twitter. I've seen him a few times. How would you rank his season, Kyran?
Right in there at B with Leon King. I think he falls into the same category. That his goals at the start of the season had to be a breakthrough season. I know there was a lot of the contract stuff going back and forward, whether we would extend them, not whether we could extend them, sorry. And we did. This is the guy we're excited about for next year. A lot of pressure on his shoulders, but he doesn't play like there's pressure on his shoulders. He's so relaxed. He's exciting to watch. Every time he's played this year, I think credit to himself with young guys when they come into the first team, they can look a bit sheepish, not really wanting the ball, not really want to try anything too extravagant. This guy's not scared at all. Yeah, he's the next big thing for us.
I think he's one of them that he just seems to have a bit of a swagger about him.
Yeah.
He's like, he loves a World Cup pass. He loves a wee cheeky through ball to go through, whereas a lot of young players will come on and they'll try so hard not to mess up that they'll do everything safe. It's a bit like James Sands. Like, you would expect a young player to do what James Sands does, and you would expect an American with a $4.5 million option to buy to be doing what Alex Lowry's doing, which is eye the needle passes, through balls, just showing for it, wanting the ball, making runs, pointing, telling people what to do. For me, he's just got composure. He's got composure miles before his time.
Yeah. There's an elegance to the way he carries the ball and sort of brings it in and goes past folk. And, oh man, I can't wait to watch him next year. I really hope he gets his chance. But at the same time, I really hope we're patient with him as well, because with players like that, the Rangers dads don't take too kindly when they make mistakes when we're up against it. So, yeah, I hope we're patient with him, but he's got a bright, bright future. I really like him.
Aye. I think B's probably a good shout for Alex Lowry. I would have, to be totally honest with you, at the start, I was thinking A, because who would have ever seen this coming for Alex Lowry at the start of the season? But looking at the A category, I don't think he's had as good a season as Tav, Goldson and Lundstram. I think you're absolutely right. That is a very elite category and it's hard to crack. I think he had a better season than King purely because I feel like he's maybe done more in his appearances being an attacking player, given I'll give you that it's probably easier for him to have more opportunity to grab headlines. But for me, phenomenal player. Can't wait to see him play next season. And again, if Glenn Kamara goes, I don't think we're missing out on much. I think Lowry's probably capable of stepping in there. He's still got a bit of filling out to do in that, but that will come.
Yeah, and like when we look at that, it almost looks as if we are saying, Leon King and Lowry had a better season than Arfield and Davis. By all means, we're not saying that. By all means, I think what we're trying to say by putting them in at B is that they fulfilled their expectations, and within context, this is what was expected of them, that the two of them would break through, and they have. Big season next year.
Aye, I think Lowry and King, for me, at the start of the season, I wouldn't have said they would have played as much as they have. So I think they've actually gone over their expectations, and that's why for me I would say B. C is probably a bit, you've done what's expected. B is you've done better than what everybody thought. Ryan Jack falls into B because he's probably done what people expected him. I think we're all used to his injury record now, but he's usually got peaks and troughs in his performances, whereas this year he's just been class. So for me, they all respectedly and deservedly sit in B. Whereas Arfield and Davis, meh, they've just not really done much. It's a bit boring. You could take them or leave them, really.
Yep.
Next one, this guy, talk about a season of two halves, to use a very, very overplayed football cliche, but to change one word in it. Joe Aribo. Now, for me, best player in the first half of the season. He was unplayable. Big man was like a spider in the middle of the park. He couldn't get the ball off him. He just seemed to have legs gone everywhere. But after AFCON, it was as if somebody kind of impersonated him, because I was advocating for him to start every game, and I remember on Twitter specifically, people were talking about midfielders and who they would play in an Old Firm game, and I was putting, what is Joe Aribo playing golf now or something? Is somebody forgetting Joe Aribo plays football? But somebody says, no, he never turns up in Old Firm games, and sure as hell he didn't. I hold my hands up. I backed Joe Aribo in the second half of the season, and he just didn't really show up.
Yeah. I can pick away at that. I can see what you're saying as well. For Aribo, there's been ups and downs this year, but there's been a lot more ups and downs. You look at some of his performances, that goal against Livingston when we needed it the most, and then away to Hearts with the Michael Jordan sort of had the way he pulled it down, the whole silhouette, and then the Joe Aribo that came back after AFCON looked tired. He looked like he needed a rest. But when you look at it over the piece, 70 games for a football player across the course of a season. We're not really talking a year here, because you're talking, August to May, early June. Phenomenal to play 70 competitive games there. Almost at a nice level, every single one of them, within his level. The goal in the Europa League final as well. For me, he's in my B.
Aye. See, to be totally honest with you, I think B is very respectable, because first half of the season he was unplayable. He finished it in a high with the Europa League, and I think he's quite recently been named World Football's Iron Man, because he's played the most minutes in world football this season. 70 appearances, as you say, represented Nigeria. He's played quite well. I've seen him getting bigged up quite a lot at AFCON with Wilfred Ndidi in that Nigeria team, and again, touted with links down south. And for me, I think he's one of the players I wouldn't like to see us lose, in contrast to Kamara. So I think B for Joe Aribo.
Yeah, for me with Aribo, under the same bracket as Bassey and Kamara and Lundstram, that incredible business. But we now want to see, where's the next batch of these guys that we're picking up for the small, cross-border fee from England. What is it, a development fee or something we call it?
Yeah.
That's where we need to be going next, because they four guys have been outstanding signings, unbelievable signings, and it's it should bear fruits soon enough when you look at how much we'll probably get for any of the guys. So it's got to be where we go next, where we pick up these guys next.
All right. Next guy is quite divisive. I know he splits opinion on Twitter quite a lot. A lot of people say he's overrated, underrated. I'm a big fan of Yanis Hadji. I think his surname probably generates more commercial interest than anybody else I've ever seen at Rangers, to be totally honest with you. The amount of Galatasaray responses you'll get on a tweet about Yanis Hadji is phenomenal. He's constantly linked with a move away, but this season he had that horrendous injury. We've seen the questionable documentary being released about his recovery, but I can't wait to see Yanis Hadji back. I don't know about you.
I'm absolutely in the same boat with you. I really feel for him because let's not forget how well he done under Van Bronckhorst when he first came in. Van Bronckhorst had him in at that sort of right at the front three role, and he done well. And what I like about Hadji, the same as I like about Lowry, he's not scared to try that pass. Hadji's not got pace. He's not built for aggression. He's got that killer pass that the vast majority of football players in the world don't have. That is his game, and that's what he's got to keep doing. His assists are key to what he does, and he's very comfortable on both feet and chips in with the goals. The reason why I've got him in at C here, believe it or not, is 27 appearances is quite good considering the first half of the season. And when you think back, mentioned it earlier, the game away to Brondby, we were terrible that night. We hadn't played well. And had you come up with the goods, if it wasn't for that point, we wouldn't have got through the group. And look where we ended up. So it goes into C for me.
See, for me, I always rate Hadji because Hadji's one of the players that I really like. If you look at world football, it's obviously on a different scale, but for me, he's a Rangers level version of Philippe Coutinho or Bruno Fernandes. He'll shoot for everywhere. He'll keep trying that through pass. 9 out of 10 of them won't work, but that 1 out of 10 will work, and that 1 out of 10 will probably either win you or draw you a game.
Yeah.
It's one of them that he'll try that special pass or that shot 10 times a game. 9 of them won't work, and Rangers dads will go raging about it, but the one that does, they'll happily jump about and celebrate.
Yeah.
And for me, he's a brilliant player to watch. He's got more shots than a boy's holiday, and I can't wait to see him back. But the injury does really draw him down for me. I think C's probably about all right. I'd maybe edge on D just because of how long he's been out in injury.
Yeah. D in the context of being disappointed that he's out.
Aye, again, it's not the boy's fault, but if you look back at the season as a whole, it's hard to actually remember the last time Yanis Hadji played. So I mean, it was that long ago, and for me, I think it's been quite disappointing for what we would have expected of him, perhaps what he would have expected of himself, and certainly what he's capable of.
Yeah.
Yanis Hadji and D then.
Yeah, let's go D. It's been a disappointing. I think he'd say he's disappointed in his season the way it went, but no fault of his own, unfortunately.
Aye, definitely. And as we say, guys, let us know in the comments and the feedback. Let us know what you think. Is Yanis Hadji and D? Has he been disappointing? Would you have him higher? But just because of how he played when he was available. The next one, Amad Diallo. What do you think, Kyran?
He's into D for me, man. Just really disappointed. Although he had a nice end to the season, chipped in with a couple of goals, good player to watch. But when we were up against it and when it counted, and I look primarily at that game away to Dundee United at Tannadice, where it was like a rabbit in the headlights, just backing out of 50-50s, taking on that chance where he should have squared it and he's hit the post. Like, that was a big game for us, and we've dropped points. Since then, he wasn't really favoured by Gio. Don't get me wrong, the boy's got absolute bags of talent. He can go all the way if he wants. Very young at the moment, but I think once again, like Ramsey, that transfer window where it was like, right, £40 million player here. We've got a winger. He's going to fill in that right at the front three slot, and we're going to kick on and win the league. And flatter to deceive. So for me, Diallo goes into D.
Aye, I think disappointing as well. One of the players that came in January and you thought, £40 million player, aye, we'll take him. Aye, he'll be good, he'll develop us, he'll canter it in our league because he played in Serie A. Although, I think he played in Serie A about 4 times before Man United spent 40 million on him. And hadn't really kicked a ball at Man United. Aye, Amad Diallo, disappointing. He's still young. I hope he goes on to have a great career. I just, unfortunately, don't think we'll see it at Ibrox, and we definitely didn't see anywhere near his best ability.
It's funny how critical we're being, yet if we woke up tomorrow at headlines that we'd sign him for another year, we'd be absolutely buzzing.
See, if it's totally honest with you, I don't think I would be. I don't think if somebody offered me it now, if I was in Ross Wilson's shoes, I don't think I'd take him for another year.
Aye.
I don't know if it's maybe just thinking or assuming rather the kind of wages we'll be contributing to and the wages he'll be on and going, nah, maybe not, when in actual fact it might be nowhere near. But again, nah, a bit like Ramsey, it was just overhyped, bad memories. Nah, I don't want to go near it again. Next one, Ryan Kent. Again, Kent's always been a fantastic player for us. He's a brilliant player for us. Yeah, I love watching him. I think Michael Beale was credited as saying he's got action man hips, something, but I don't really remember him having too many goal contributions this year.
Oh, Reiss, man, we're setting the cat amongst the pigeons here. I'm the sole member of the Ryan Kent Rangers Supporters Club, and I would die in this now that he goes into B. Right.
B, go for it. Explain your point.
My point is that statistically, oh, where do you go? He's had enough. Oh, you're back. Thank God, mate.
Put an eye on.
I thought you'd heard enough.
Anyway, no, not at all.
That's why he's not the greatest. 13 assists, maybe not as many goals as he should have had, but you've got to look at this Europa League run, and he was pivotal to everything that we done. Opposing managers were talking about him. Look at Lundstram's goal against Borussia Dortmund. That's Kent all over it. The goal away to Red Star, where he's went for his own half, took us through the tie. It was the goal that we needed that night. The assist against Leipzig for Lundstram. He's pulled it out the bag there. Countless penalties is what he won is in Europe. And for me, straight into B.
Aye. See, to be totally honest with you, we've got Joe Aribo in B, we've got Ryan Jacket in B. To Ryan Kent, under either of they two, for me, would be criminal. I think he's a phenomenal player. I would hate to see him leave. I honestly don't think I would sell him at 25 million.
Nah.
Particularly because of the sell-on clause that Liverpool have got, which I believe is between 20 and 25%. Whether that's of profit or the total transfer fee, I'm not sure. But nah, to be totally honest, money wouldn't matter. I wouldn't want to lose him for the team, regardless, purely because I don't trust this to replace him.
Yeah, we need to get him tied down. We really do need to get him tied down. He's one of a kind. He's a wee bit like Aribo in the sense that he's worth every penny you pay for the ticket to watch guys like this.
Aye. Scott Wright, the next one, he's certainly not on Ryan Kent's level, ability-wise. Would you say Scott Wright's had as good a season as we would have expected for Scott Wright this season? Or better or worse?
Nope. Firmly in D for me. Very disappointing. That might split a few hairs in terms of how he ended the season. I thought he was decent in the first half of the Europa League final, and then great performance against Hearts in the final. Very composed, and maybe that is his coming of age performance where he kicks on next year. But I felt like the player that we got last year, in that 6 months that we seen towards the end of the 55 season, he looked like he was really going to kick on. And then the start of this season, I think Kent was out for 6 weeks. I think it was a hamstring injury, and that was his opportunity. I felt that cement your place in the team, step up to that next level, because he's got all the ability, he's got all the attributes to go and do well, and he just didn't. He was just so disappointing for me.
Aye, I think Scott Wright, I think you're absolutely right. I would put him in D. I think he's been quite disappointing for most of the season. He did finish it well, but I remember numerous times in, when was it? I think it was the Scottish Cup semi against Celtic, when Van Bronckhorst brought him off the bench. Now, I specifically remember watching the game in the pub and writing in a WhatsApp chat, that's the wrong substitution, he's made again, he's got to go. Talking about Gio at the time, because I totally believed, how do you look at that bench and see the likes of Arfield and whoever else was in the bench at the time and pick Scott right off it? Now, to his credit, he can on and prove me wrong. I don't think he's put a foot wrong in the last few months of the season. But at the same time, you know what you're getting. It's nothing special. It's nothing fancy. It's direct. He's running. He's quite quick. But for me, he's falling into that Greg Stewart category of he'll cut it in Scotland, but he's nothing better.
Yeah. Let's hope he kicks on next year.
Aye. Put him in D, because I think to have him maybe above Kamara would probably be quite... that would be debatable. I don't think I'd have him above Kamara, so D's fair for me.
Yeah.
Fashion Sakala, now he's... Scott Patterson has quite rightly coined this phrase a few times. He's got that bit of natural Nova about him. Is he a winger? Is he a striker? He's a bit of a cult hero. Got a decent tune. But he's not really that reliable. He's certainly not consistent.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail completely on the head there by saying he's not really reliable. When you look towards the end of that season there, we had no striker after Roof got injured, and he still couldn't be trusted to be played through the middle. I know he had a great game away at Parkhead. He grabbed the equaliser there. But I just don't know. I just don't know what we get, although 12 goals is a very good return for a guy that was in and out of the team quite a lot.
Aye.
He's a danger when he comes on. It doesn't seem to offer too much when he starts.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I really don't know where he falls in. I've got him here as D for disappointing, because I think when he was coming last season, the headlines were this guy was going to score as many goals as Morelos, and he was going to kick on, and there's almost been a glass ceiling with him where it almost feels like, how much better can he get? Can he get that much better? And I don't know if I believe it yet, but love the guy. I do. I just can't dislike him. But
nah, he's one of the guys, you know, his tune's incredible, dreams never die and all that, so he's got the power to go. I would personally have Sakala in C, personally, because see, until you said he had 12 goals there, I wouldn't have thought he had double figures for goals. And for me, double figures for goals for Sakala is quite good, because he's been played in the wing a few times. He's obviously scored that goal at Parkhead. He put a shift in at Hampden against Celtic. He's scored against Motherwell away, I think, if I remember correctly. He's contributed quite a few goals this season, and I don't know, he's more athletic than technical, without doubt. For me, he doesn't really have that football brain. Anytime I watch him, I say he's not got a brain, but he gives you every bit of effort he's got, and he'll run. Like, for me, he was one of the guys you seen in PE in school, and you go, aye, right, you're more athletics than football. Like, go and run. I think the best yet to come with Sakala, I don't know what it is, but I just think he's got a big development to come. The lazy comparison I always draw is Patson Daka. I think Patson Daka was pretty raw. He's probably learned his trade. Managers will learn how to use him effectively with his qualities. I would go C with Sakala, just because he's got to double figures for goals.
Aye, I like that. I think that's what I've got. Aye. He's in
Next
there.
one.
Oh.
Oof. I think we know where this one's going. This is a basement boy.
Absolutely.
Cedric Itten, got to be an F.
I mean, the best thing he done this year was the fan village, I think.
Aye. I mean, there was a phrase going about with my pals towards the end of the season that was, oh, you've got to be Cedric Itten, me. And most viewers will be able to guess what that meant, what it rhymed with. It was a bit of rhyming slang to go with. But, honestly, you'd have been better with a plank out up front.
Aye, firmly in the F club, but yeah, a failed loan spell. But we've got him in F, right? He scored against Bayern Munich. He scored against Real Madrid. He scored against, I'm trying to think.
Arsenal? Was it Arsenal?
Maybe, aye. And he scored against, I think it was Stirling Albion, or was it Stranraer he played at Ibrox?
He's got a ridiculous record, to be fair. But firmly an F. He's got his fans. A lot of people would have backed him, said the TED was a phrase coined far too often for my liking. But honestly, it was a disaster of a signing. We've lost a fair bit of money on him overall, and it's nothing personal. Purely professionally, I'm glad to see the back of him because I don't think he was nearly good enough for us rather. And I think if we'd have held on to him, we'd have lost him on a free transfer in a couple of years. He's one of these signings that nobody would have bought him, he'd have went.
Yeah, but we wish him well.
Aye, Cedric Kitton, cheers, see you later, F. You failed, see you later. Alfredo Morelos, he's box office as always. Morelos, we know what you get with him, but he's had a fair few injuries this year. The one where he went off with Colombia, I think it was his thigh that he injured. I think he'd injured it before that because he kind of hobbled off. He certainly had an ice pack on it before he went away. Was then allowed to fly to Colombia for some reason. I don't know whether they thought Rangers were bluffing them and trying to do him at an international break, but how would you rank Morelos' season? Because it's certainly no, in my opinion, the best we've seen him.
I hope you're ready for this, mate, but I've got him firmly in the A club.
A?
He's in the A team.
Lawson, A?
Yes, he is our best player. He is the best player at Rangers. We are a completely different team without Morelos. When I remember when Gio came in and he was that sole striker once again in Europe, bullying defenders, just being Morelos, that number 9 that we get so used to. And then he drifted further back under Beale and Gerrard. For me, Morelos has been phenomenal. What have we got here? 18 goals in 42 appearances. Mismanagement of him towards the end of the season possibly cost us the Europa Cup and the league. We could have handled him a wee bit better. But Morelos, for me, in the A team, when he was on it big time, and he was brilliant. Although maybe not so great at the start of the season, but yeah, he is our man. He's our talisman. I hope we extend him. Yeah.
Aye, vital we extend his contract, and I totally get that he's probably our most important and influential player, as in when he's known the team, he's the biggest person you notice. Take MD else out, you won't notice it to as big an extent. Maybe Tav, but even then with Patterson, you wouldn't have noticed it as much. I think he's the biggest drop-off in quality we've got in the squad, undoubtedly. Yeah. But for me, can you really give Morelos an A when he's not hit 20 goals in a season?
Very good point. Yeah, very good point.
That would be my sticking point. I think, again, he's a victim of his own success because he's such a good player that for me, 20 goals a season is a stick-on with Morelos. It's essential for just kind of a standard season.
Yeah, you look at the games we've played against Celtic this year, and I think only 2 of them, or 1 of them, I think I'm right in saying Morelos only played against Celtic 1 time this season, and we missed him. We really did miss him.
No, definitely. He's a massive miss in the squad. I think he has had a good season. 19 goals is certainly a good contribution, and for me, it's a lazy phrase and it's overused with the likes of Firmino, but his build-up play and everything he does off the ball and linking in other players for me is massively underrated. And I think his stats maybe don't show that to an extent. But again, I personally wouldn't say that you can give Morelos an A with less than 20 goals in a season.
I agree. I do agree. Just stick him in A. I'm only no complaints at all if he's in B. But we've missed him. We've missed him big time. But it'd be good to see him back.
Aye, right. We're renaming the series, guys. It's going to be Ruthless Rangers Ranks. No room for sentimentality here. He's going in B.
Right, he's straight into B.
Kemar Roofe to finish off the squad. How would you rate Kemar Roofe's season? Because for me, it's almost as if this has been Roofe's biggest opportunity to really cement his place as a capable backup in that number 9 that when Morelos is out, you can really rely on. And at times, I think he showed it. I think he showed that he's definitely a different sort of player to Morelos. But whether or not he's anywhere near the quality, it's still up for debate for me.
Yeah, unbelievable finisher. Great player, love to watch him. I think he has been a good signing despite his injuries. I think if you're looking at a guy like Kemar Roof that would be 100% fit in terms of Tavernier and Goldson numbers, he wouldn't be playing at Rangers.
100%, aye.
Yeah, in terms of this season for Roof, it's a disappointing one. When I think about the semi-final against Celtic at Hampden, he ran himself into the ground. He was excellent that day. It really was a thorn in their side when it came to having a focal point and a striker up the front that we had been missing with Morelos. I thought Roof was excellent. In terms of the season over the piece, I think he falls into C.
See, for me, I think he's flattered to deceive because he has had injuries. He's not been the most reliable in terms of availability, although I think him and Morelos have kind of get that wee balance of they're never both injured at the one time.
Yeah.
They seem to be, when Morelos is out, right, Roof steps in, and when Morelos is firing, Roof will pick up a wee injury and he's out for a while, but we don't notice because Morelos is playing.
Yeah.
What I think is quite important to note about Roof, and it shows just the kind of player he is, and just shy of 3,300 minutes, Morelos has got 19 goal contributions this season. Now, Kemar Roof in just over 1,800, which is nearly half the minutes of Morelos, he's got 3 goal contributions less. He's got 16 compared to Morelos, he's 19. So I reckon when he's played, he's definitely been effective, but it's just, I think he's had a bit of an average season.
Yeah, I think average. Compared to last year, I thought it was brilliant last year. He was better in the league last year as well. Firmly in C for me.
C. Right, so to finish off the squad, we'll have Kemar Roof in C. So having a look at the visuals, Kyran, what do you reckon? Do you think it's a fair viewing? Or?
Fair assessment, yeah. Lowry and King in there within context. I'm looking across the piece. Kamara we've maybe been a wee bit harsh on, but once again, expectations as opposed to his form last year. But yeah, I think I've got it right. We're not going to sit here and say we're wrong, are we? So,
do you know what? We'll let the viewers and the listeners tell us that. Let us know if you agree or disagree. Let us know. It's all about opinions, and more than happy to either debate or discuss with people in the comments. And feel free to tell me I've not got a clue about Rangers players if you want. I'm all for it. So just to go over it for those listening rather than watching and not able to see the visuals. In F, we've got Philip Hollander, Jack Simpson, James Sands, Aaron Ramsey and Cedric Itten. So they were the failures, the flops. F, they've cut off, as in you've not even scraped it, you've proper failed and flopped. There you go. D, the disappointing category, although they're scraping the barrel. So players you would either want Ross Wilson to have a word with, monitor, or look to move on. You've got Robbie McCrory, Borna Barisic, Nathan Patterson, who departed in January, Glenn Kamara, Yanis Hadji, Ahmed Diallo, and Scott Wright. C, the bang average category, kind of middle of the road. Get Alan McGregor, who's had plenty of ups and downs this season. John McLaughlin, who's not really grabbed many headlines either way. Leon Balogun, who's again had up and downs. Arfield and Davis, who haven't really done much either way. Sakala, who's got a lot of improvement to do, I think it's fair to say. And Kemar Roof, who's done well when he's been available, but again, not really nailed his kind of place down in the team when he's had the opportunity. B, now this is where we're getting to the good bit in it, Kyran. We're going to leave these in a happy note. We're going to go with Calvin Bassey. Now, would you have Calvin Bassey in A because of the expectations for the start of the season? Let us know. Leon King, who's fair to say had more kind of what's the word, involvement with the first team squad than what I think he would have imagined at the start of the season. Ryan Jack, who's not put a foot wrong when he's played, albeit he's been plagued with injuries again. Alex Lowry, who's by far and away had a lot more involvement than what he would have expected. And again, the Masonic Modric, can't wait to see him next season. He's one of the players you genuinely get excited to watch. Joe Aribo, who's world football's Iron Man, 70 games over the course of a season, played well. He's never really had a poor game for me. He's either been missing or played well. Ryan Kent, again, stats maybe don't really show it as much, but such a pivotal player for us. You wouldn't sell him for money. Morelos, he's just Morelos. He just is. You know what to expect from him. The humans are going to bully everybody, cause havoc, and score goals. And in A, we've got Connor Goldson, who again kept us all waiting. 4 more years we've got him for. Absolutely brilliant. And World Cup passes for days. Tavernier, top goal scorer for right back, captain, leader. Would you say legend? Let us know in the comments. Kyran, would you think?
Absolutely, mate. Legend for me.
Kieran's gone captain, leader, legend. Don't know that I'd go that strongly myself, but again, that's episode 1's debate. And John Lundstram, best on earth. Quite firmly put in A, purely because of his end of the season. I think that's us for grading 21-22. I think we'll take a wee summer break for the Martin. It is exam season, Kyran, so we'll take a wee break now that we've done our grading.
Absolutely, mate. Top invigilators as well.
I know. No more of that. How was that, Kyran? Did you enjoy it?
Enjoyed that. I really did enjoy it. I'm waiting to see how the comments pass out and if we get pelters. I think Calvin Bassey might be the one that gets us the most stick, but we'll wait and see. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on, man.
No problem. Absolute pleasure. I reckon it will be Bassey, Kamara, and possibly Arfield that get his criticism, although McGregor, I kind of feel like we've sat in the fence with McGregor because a lot of people are polarised with him. So we'll wait and see how that goes in the comments as well. But again, guys, let us know what you'd like us to do in episode 3. I think it'll possibly be managers over the course of the club's history that we rank. So again, let us know what you would like us to rank or grade in terms of tiers, and make sure to follow on all the social media platforms, subscribe on YouTube. You can download the podcast every possible podcast platform, and make sure to come back. Thanks very much for watching. See you later on.